Well, hey, welcome to another live stream and happy Labor Day. Hope you all had a good day. I spent today doing some painting here around the house. And so I hope you had a good day with family, doing whatever you're going to do, or just relaxing, camping, so on. So we're here to talk about Awana games. And before we get started, I want to, on the Facebook invite, somebody posted on there. Penny Joe posted on there if anybody's interested in some game equipment. She's got some game equipment. So look on the Facebook invite. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Secondly, there Awana Basics. So awanabasics.awana.org. There's a games director track on there that you can follow along about and learn about how to be a game director or send that to somebody to be a game director. To do that, you've got to have a MyAwana login. So my.awana.org. There's a process for doing that. If you go on that website, if you go down to the bottom of the website, there's a couple of videos on how to get a how to get a login and so on, and how you have to link it to your church. And there's just a little process. If you have trouble with that, let me know and I'll help you. So games. Hey, most kids come, if I travel around, I talk to kids and I say, hey, what's your favorite thing about Awana? The majority of them would tell me games. And so games is a big draw to bring kids in. So we want to make sure we have it's like over the top fun games, but at the same time, disciplined, well ordered. So there's sort of a dichotomy there: over the top fun, disciplined, and well run. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. This is going to be like a 3-part series. So if you're listening to this or watching this, you can go on the YouTube channel and you subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you're on our Facebook group, you have access to these as well. So okay, so let's get started. First thing is, where does Gametime meet? So sometimes when I travel around and I talk to pastors and churches, in fact, somebody called me not too long ago, and they wanted to start Awana, and they said, "Hey, we don't have room for a game square, and in order for us to do Awana, the person who wants to do Awana, we'd have to totally remodel the sanctuary, and is that necessary?" And I said, "No." So Game Circle is great, but I'm just going to show you some ideas on where to do games. Some maybe you've seen, and some not. So there is that's a mat. So this particular church wanted to have a game square, but they didn't want to paint it or put it in the carpet or anything like that. So they used this mat. It just rolled out. There's a place you can buy it. You go and do a Google search, Awana mat, games mat, and there's people who sell those things. It just rolls up and goes in the corner, and then you roll it out to do your game. So that's the first situation. The second one, this is a church that painted the game square into their spot, or into their back in their parking lot, and so that's good. That's one probably very common. We put there's Velcro tape that goes on the floor on the floor of carpeting. So if you've got carpeting, you can put a game square in the carpeting. This is one on concrete. I believe they painted it in there, and it's a little bit smaller. But you got to remember, the kids that come to this Awana Club aren't saying, "Oh man, we're getting ripped off. It's not the right dimensions." What they don't know, they just want to come and have fun. So remember that. This is very kind of a unique game square outside on in the sand. So I'm not sure exactly how they did that. I pulled that off the internet. And then this is a church that has this is their sanctuary. They pull all the chairs out, and rather than tape a square down, they just have put those cones down and use the cones. So you can do that. This is, you can't really tell, but this is actually a game rectangle. And so this particular church had some poles right in the middle of the sanctuary. So they wanted to make it didn't want the kids running the pole. So this year, this year, or maybe even last year, they changed it, measured where the poles were. It took them a little time to figure out where to put the square, and they actually made a square. But the first year, they had a game rectangle. And over the years, I've helped churches put a game rectangle down, just depending on the size of the sanctuary. And so, yeah, you can do that. This church did their games outside in a basketball court, and if the weather's good, you can play outside. Great, because you have more room to do more things. This is in a gym, and again, they just put some cones down, made a circle, and the kids that play there, they're not thinking to themselves, "Oh man, this is horrible. How can we? This is beneath us to play games without a painted square." They just play with cones, and it works good. And so yeah, this is a game square outside. There's Awana used to sell an outdoor game kit, but you can use a nylon webbing if you get the right size, red, blue, green, yellow, or whatever color, and then you put some cones in the middle, and you can have an outdoor game square. They did Awana games in the park. This is their first night of club, so you can meet there. This is a smaller game square. They had to make it work, but again, the kids are not thinking they're getting ripped off. So many different places you can do games. So that's the first thing, is where can you do games? Anywhere. And you can play. Oh, you know what? there was one here. This is kind of a unique, I think I have it on here. Yeah, they had a game lines. So they have a really long, narrow fellowship hall, and they had game lines. And so the kids would start at one end, and we play the game with a beanbag, run around the circle. Or they would just run up one line and back down the other. And so they played games there and had a great time. You could see the square here, and the square was for their opening ceremony, but it worked fine. So you can do games anywhere, or you can do activities. There was a church in San Francisco we helped start, and they played board games. You can have board games, and the kids never had played board games, so you can do that. So the next thing, who's who in game time. So I would say a couple of things. You want to have a game director, somebody leading the games, planning the games, thinking all the games through. So that'd be the first thing. And if you can, you want to have a line leader for each team color. So depending on the size of your square, or how many teams you have and how many kids you have. If you have two teams, you only need two games leaders. You might not play in a square, or you could play two sides. But you want to have somebody leading the games, and then a team leader or a line leader helping the kids on each team kind of navigate game time. So you have the game director, line leaders, and then if possible, you want to have a scorekeeper to keep track of the points for games. Now, sometimes the game director will do that. They have a little. You can get an app, keep score on your app. You can have a piece of paper. Sometimes there's somebody over in the corner who does games. Sometimes they'll put a little whiteboard up, and somebody will keep track of the games point. But somebody to keep track of the game points. Okay. So I'm going to go over some game director guidelines. So these are just some things to think about for the person leading the game. So number one would be prepare for the worst case scenario. So imagine this: you're the game director, and you get there, and let's say you're leading games outside, and it's raining. So what are you going to do? Or let's say a couple of years ago in our church, we were going to do games outside, and we had there was a fire in the area, and so smoke was so bad we couldn't do games outside, so we had to do games inside. So what do you do then? Or what if you get to the church and it's game time, and oh no, the pastor forgot to tell you we're having a Bible study potluck in your game area, so you have to figure something else out. So, or what happens if club starts at 6 o'clock, and you get a couple people text you and say, you know what, I can't make it. And so what are you going to do then? So you got to think about that. So you want to think through all the scenarios. If you're going to play outside, if it's raining, what are you going to do if all these things come up? And so think through, and over time, you'll start anticipating things that could happen. So that's the first thing, prepare for the worst case scenario. Number two is be excited, enthusiastic about game time. So, like I said, game time is what draws kids in. So if you come in there and da na na na, and it's like game time is the gulag, then it's not good. You want to make sure the kids are fun and exciting. Game time is, like I say, borderline out of control, not out of control, but borderline out of control, where everybody's having fun. It's a great time, well disciplined, and so since you're the ringleader for that, you want to be enthusiastic about um, doing game, being leading game time. So next thing, keep your leadership engaged. So if you have line leaders, you want to make sure they're engaged and not just you leading games and they're just standing there doing nothing. So the things you can do is you want to explain the games to the the team leaders or line leaders, and then let them explain it to the kids. Because if you've got Sparky age kids, TNT age kids from 20 feet away, they may not understand what you're trying to say, but the line leader can understand. In fact, sometimes I've seen game directors will ask the line leaders to come into the middle of the circle. They'll explain a new game, then the line leaders go out and explain it to the kids. So keep your leadership engaged. The other thing you can do is maybe think about having the line leaders or team leaders participate in one of the games. And we used to do the little scooter races, and then all the kids would push the leader on the scooters, or having the last game with the leaders. Or you got to be careful about that. Some leaders are older, health compromised, they may not want to play, so kind of be sensitive to that, but involve your leaders as much as possible. um, so next thing, um, mix old and new games. So sort of the rule is, if it takes longer to explain a game than it does to play it, then don't play it. However, sometimes you introduce new games. So let's just say in game time, you have the time to play 3 games. So you're going to play game 1, game 2, and game 3. And then the next week, you might want to play games 2 and 3, and then introduce game 4. So now you got 2, 3, and 4. And then the next week, you play games 3, 4, and introduce game 5. So there's a mix of old games and new games. So there's some games that the kids can play right away. They love those games. But if you're constantly playing the same games week after week, they're going to get a little bored. So mix up new games, old games, and that might be a good way to do the rotation. Or sometimes there's kids who just love a certain game, and you could use that to say, hey, once we get done with these other games, I know your favorite game is this, and we'll play that the last game, or something like that. So mix old games and new games. The next game director guideline: have different games for different abilities. So people always ask me, hey, I've got some kids who don't want to play and they want to sit out. Well, the reason they want to sit out is because they can't win. And so they don't want to play if they can't win. So um, you want to have games, if all your games are athletic, running, jumping, going around the circle, grabbing pins, if all your games are that, then the same kids are going to be winning every week and dominating. So you want to have running games, you might want to have thinking games, you might want to have agility games. So think through the different kinds of games so that every kid in your club has the ability to win and be good at one of the games. Because if they're good, if they're good at 1 or 2 of the 3 games, then they'll want to play, and then they'll participate in all the games. So make sure you have different games for different skill levels and different abilities. Okay, so keep discipline positive to encourage good behavior. So, we use a 5 count, we use a 3 count, we use positive points, never take away points. And then what you can do too is you give points for the winning team, but you can also give points if the team's cheering. So you might want to say, okay, so we're going to play this game. We're going to have team run around the circle with a beanbag on their head, or whatever the game you're playing, and the winning team's going to get 50 points. If you're not playing and you're cheering your team, you're going to get another 25 points. So that way, you not only the kids can get more points, but you're giving a tool to that line leader rather than for them to say, "Hey, shut up, man. We got to be quiet." You're helping them say, "Hey, Johnny, let's cheer our team because um, we want to get more points." And so you give the tool for those line leaders to. So you want to encourage positive behavior. So the winning team gets a certain amount of points. You could give points if they cheer in their team. You could give points. Hey, if you're sitting, maybe one of the games, if you're cheering as loud as you can, you're going to get an extra 25 points. And the next game, you'd say, hey, if you're silent, totally silent, with your hands in your lap, you're going to get an extra 25 points. So you're giving points for the winning team. You're giving points to encourage positive behavior, and you're keeping discipline positive. You're helping things go smoother. And so the other thing you might want to think about is every time you start a new game, you might want to have do the 5 counts, and then everybody come back and be quiet. Let's reset, restart. So you're kind of the excitement level is increasing, and the excitement level and maybe the discipline level is decreasing. So if you stop and do the 5 count, get everybody back on their line, reset. Now the enthusiasm, excitement increases, the discipline increases. So you're constantly going back and forth between out of control and positive, encouraging discipline. Okay, be inventive and creative. So, this past summer I got a chance to go to Idaho and lead activities at a camp. And so I was doing games in the morning and doing an hour worth of games in the morning and an hour worth of games in the evening. So all summer, wherever I went, I was looking at different things. What could I use? So I pulled some tires, some bike tires, some old spare tires, some some truck tires. I pulled all these different things, baseball bats. And so you want to think creatively. How can you take just the simplest little things and turn it into a game? You could bring in baseball gloves. You could, be careful about what you're bringing in as far as windows and people getting hurt, but just be inventive and creative. So how can you take that regular circle game, the basic circle game, you run around the circle, go in and grab the pin. Beyond that, you can build and build and build to put different things on. Could you bring beach chairs in? Could you bring umbrellas in and play a game, run around the circle with an umbrella, or beach balls, or whatever? Be inventive and creative. Inventive and creative on how you use the points. 1 week, points are cheap. So 1 week, if you gave 100 points for the winning team, great. What if the next week you give 1,000,000 points for the winning team? Well, the difference between 1,000,000 points and 100 points is just zero. So, but the kids are thinking, oh, this is great. We're getting 1,000,000 points. So you can just be inventive and creative, always coming up with new ways to do things. You could play games where maybe 1 week you run the wrong way around the circle. So everybody's running counterclockwise around the circle. Well, we're going to run clockwise this week because that's just this is what we're doing this week. So, and it's just one more way to add variety, fun, excitement to the kids. You could have them run backwards. You play a circle game, they're running forwards. What if they ran backwards? What if they jumped? What if they, it's just endless things you can do to be inventive and creative. So think about that. Next thing, make sure everyone plays every game. So the way you do that, is you have heats. So you have we're going to play run around the circle with your beanbag on your head, and so you play three players. But we're going to have, if there's 10 players on a line, we're going to have 4 heats. So you get the first 3, the next 3, the next 3, and then that last person, that 10th person, he's going to go, and then you're going to have to ask 2 people to run twice. So you want to make sure everybody plays every game. So you play. You only need to do a half-hour game time, 2 or 3 games with multiple heats, so that everybody gets to play every game, and so you can do that. So make sure everybody's always playing, and then especially too, they start doing thinking games, creative games. It just gets fun. Emphasize team play over individual play. So here's the reason for that is some kids are a little apprehensive about being the only one to play. And if they win, great. And if they lose, they're feeling bad. And so you might discourage them from playing. But if you have a team game where you need 2 or 3 players, then the spotlight's not on any one player. So that's the first reason. And then the other thing is you can, you don't need as many games, because if you have 2 or 3 players playing each heat, or playing 2 or 3 heats with 2 or 3 players, you don't need to be as many games. There's more kids playing than sitting. If you have an individual game and you got 10 on your team line, and you got 1 player playing and you get 9 players watching, not so good. But if you have 3 players or 4 players playing and 6 players watching, and then you run that really quick, and then now you've got 4 more or 3 more and 6 watching. So you're moving a lot faster. So do team play rather than individual play. Keep games moving quickly. So sometimes, I might explain a game, and then I'm not going to wait too long to make sure everybody's ready. It's like, we're going to explain the game, and I'm not just going to rush it, but I'm not waiting around for everybody to go, because you want that excitement. You don't want, okay, let's wait for Billy, and then then wait for Susie, and then Susie's ready. Now Billy's playing with his friend, and now Mary, and then hey, I explained the game, and then we go. And they start running, and then it's just fun. So keep the games moving quickly. So you play, you play 1 heat, and then you go, hey, I need the next 3 players. They line up on their line. You give them just a minute or so to get on their line and get ready. Maybe not of a minute. Okay, go. We're going. And then you play it. Hey, need another 3 players. Hey, you're going. And so, and also, I want to go back to that thought of playing mix of new games and old games. If the kids know the games, you don't need to take long to explain it. You can just say, hey, we're playing this game. Get on the line. Let's go. And then so you play that game, and then you got to explain another game, and then you might have to take a little time for that. And typically I will play the games that kids know first, because you get the excitement and you get things moving and you get things, they're having fun. And then when they're a little tired, maybe you can bring in a new game and explain it to them. So keep the games moving quickly. And then lastly, excuse me, remember why you're playing the games. The reason we're playing the games, so the kids will have fun. They'll want to come back to Awana week after week, and then we have the opportunity to tell them about Jesus and the cross and all those things. So remember, and that'll help you. It's not about competition. Yes, we have competition, but the reason for the competition is to make it fun, so the kids will want to come back week after week and hear about Jesus. So keep that in mind when you're doing your games. And if it starts getting a little hairy and out of control, you can rein it in. So hope that was helpful. Hey, next week, I'm going to do this again next Monday. And I'm going to talk about how do you get started. What's the first thing you need to do? A lot of your clubs have already started, but I'm going to talk about what you need to do on the first night of club, and how do you get things rolling, and some other things about game time. So I hope that was helpful. And if you want to, if you get this on the Facebook group, then great. You're going to be here for the next one. If you are on YouTube, if you hit the subscribe button, then every time I make one of these YouTube videos or live streams, it streams on Facebook and YouTube. Every time I make one, you'll get notified, and you can watch it whenever you want to. So I hope that's helped. Hey, thanks a bunch. Hope you guys have a great year of club, and I'm really looking forward to getting out and seeing everybody. I've had a good summer, but I'm ready to go out and see God working in your club. So we'll talk to you soon. Bye.